You're listening to the Beer Craft Beer and Brewing Podcast. Tune in every Wednesday night at 6:30 Pacific for a dose of beer and brewing banter with your hosts, Ben Holm and Andrew Ziegler.
So hop aboard for some wit and wisdom in the Pacific Northwest, because it's always beer 30 on
The Beer Craft.
Welcome to the Beer Craft. We do believe that learning to brew beer should be just as much fun as drinking it. I'm Ben.
And I'm Andrew.
Today, we're taking a good look at the migration of the IPA from the west to the east in a manifest destiny in reverse.
Yeah. How the IPA migrated from the hop fields of Washington, Oregon, and California to the cloud fermenters of the Northeast. Before we can chart the IPA's evolution,
Or prune a beer's family tree, biology or beerology, it's thirsty work. It's time for our favorite bit of field research. It's
Beer 30.
Andrew, how the heck are you?
Good day, Ben. What's up, man? How you?
I'm doing good, man.
Oh, doing good. It's a good day. It's beautiful out.
We got some cool stuff today.
Got some cool beer.
Yeah, we have.
What did you bring?
We got 4 pints in front of it.
All right.
It's going to be a dangerous show, I'm going to tell you what. We have two classic West Coasts. We'll see if they're the bright and clear and decidedly bitter that we expect. The other is a pair of hazy New England style IPAs. Each one an evolution of their West Coast cousins. So I'm expecting some soft, juicy, or orange and kind of fruit flavors. It's interesting. We have delicious IPA from Stone Brewing in San Diego, and then they have a hazy version of the same name. So I'm not sure if this is a little like co-branding, like Coke and Cherry Coke kind of thing, because we got 7.2% and 7.7% or 7 point something.
7.2,
They're
7.7.
different beers. The Voodoo Ranger from New Belgium Brewing in Colorado, I believe. They've got their Imperial IPA, the Voodoo Ranger, but then they have their Juice Force, Voodoo Ranger Juice Force IPA, which is the hazy version. And they're huge beers, like 9% and 9.5%. So we'll see. We're going to pour them side by side. We're going to get to drink them today and kind of take a look and see, like, are they both hazy?
Right.
So many modern IPAs.
How do
have
these
a haze
differ?
Factor. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That'll be interesting.
Okay, where are we going to start? We've got the Stone Delicious.
I think we should start with the Stone Delicious.
Orange.
It is the lighter of
Orange
the two
can.
at 7.2 and 7.
And the green can.
And 7.5%.
These are both
7.2,
gluten reduced.
Yeah, which I think
here.
is interesting for an IPA, especially for the hazy category, because so many of those have like heavy protein malts, wheat, oat, all the flake product that's so popular in the style. So a gluten reduced version, I suspect, it might be something like an enzyme that they add in the fermenter.
Crafted to reduce gluten.
Yeah.
It doesn't really state.
My brief amount of
What it
research
does.
this afternoon did not allow me to they were kind of tight-lipped about it.
It does contain gluten.
Yeah. We just remove some of it, but then we can't verify.
I don't know.
That for you,
yeah,
so.
I don't know how they.
Let's pour.
All right.
Pour. We have 4 glasses. We have so we can do kind of like half and half and side by side.
Well, since this is a hazy episode, I'm
Yeah.
going to pour the hazy first.
Might as well. But then pour the IPA so we can see them side by side.
We
before
will.
drink them all. Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm glad you're pouring. It's a model improvement. Wow. That's the hazy. Okay, it is definitely looking the part.
Definitely got some haze to it.
Yep.
I know you like a little head on yours.
I do. The bubbles are so gosh darn important. Oh man, that's nice pour. Let's get the sound effects on this one. Stone Brewing's delicious IPA. It's been a while since I've had this beer. Oh, I'm just gonna let you do that.
I don't think I've ever had this beer. So this is a first taster for me.
Right here on the Beer Craft.
Right here on the Beer Craft.
Virgin palate.
Virgin delicious. I'm a delicious virgin. It is definitely pouring clear.
Okay, well
It is not hazy.
I'm glad to see that. Better snap a picture here for the interwebs. Oh, we're gonna need a wide angle on this one now.
They're about the same color.
visually,
They look, yeah,
visually in the same spectrum.
in that same SRM range.
Yeah. Let's hold them up to the light.
Hold them to the light. Even the non-haze one it's not crystal clear.
Well,
It's not crystal, but
the style has always been like some haze okay.
some haze okay, definitely.
I mean, like that's the hallmark of dry hop beers forever. Was a slight hop haze.
Yeah.
It's unavoidable to a degree there.
Okay.
I mean, cold crashing, gelatin fining, we can do a bunch of stuff to help with that.
The OG.
The OG. Let's get it down our gullet. It's pretty tasty.
That's good.
It's got a bitter bite right
It does.
At the very end.
I'm looking for the stone flavor. You know, I'm trying to find that stone.
Oh, the Stone IPA was like
the
pretty
Stone
distinctive.
terroir.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of their beers, you know, a while back, they had the same. Probably the yeast had the same flavor.
Sure.
They're the same.
Sure. You know, how many arrogant bastards did I destroy my tongue on?
Yeah, it's
right?
just a distinct house. It's a house flavor.
Right.
And I liked it.
You know, I'm not gonna send. I wouldn't send this beer back for any.
No, this is good.
Yeah, that's pretty tasty.
Have you ever been to a Stone Brewery?
No, it is. You know, I have not been to San Diego for many.
Yeah,
moons.
I went and visited their San Diego location, and it was like this. I don't know. It's like a complex, a business kind of a complex, but more like a school setting or a what would you call that?
like a campus,
like
kind
a
of
campus kind of deal where there's a bunch of outbuildings and the roads. You know, you're in the place, but there's still roads that kind of lead you from building to building, parking all along the way. You can, walk from place to place.
But it wasn't necessarily like, all the buildings facing north.
Right. No.
Right,
Yep.
so-
Very cool campus.
Yeah,
And
okay,
campus-y.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was cool. Yeah.
Well, I think
what that's called.
I probably could be campus.
Campus.
Yeah.
Stone Campus. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'll look it up right
Little quick Google search. We can edit out our awkward silences. We're pretty good at that.
Yeah. We'll tell everybody we're editing this out.
Yeah. It could happen. I doubt it.
Stone Brewing.
I gotta taste
Oh
this.
yeah, the World Bistro and Gardens, maybe. No.
That's the name of their brewery. What's the address?
Stone Brewing. This says the original 40 Brewing Company, but I don't know what that means.
No. Yeah, I didn't have a ton of time to do my homework on beer.
Yeah, no, this is not it.
I'm gonna drink this hazy while you're farting around with that.
Oh, do it. No, I really couldn't tell you where it was.
It's kind of got a weird thing going.
Okay,
Like I can see like
let's try it.
juicy. Try it side by side.
All right, normal IPA. Now this would be this delicious Stone Delicious. This would be West Coast IPA.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to try if they brewed it in New England.
Wow. I'm getting like this weird kind of clash in my mouth. Drinking them side by side. Like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
There's less. The bitterness is toned down in the hazy.
Which I see a lot. Sure.
We call it the not apparent bitterness, the perceived
right.
IBU. It's lower in the hazy.
It feels like 2 rungs below.
Yeah.
Like more,
Yeah.
Yeah. Below a pale even.
Right. It's not like they took this IPA and threw a bunch of hops in the fermenter.
No, I think it. Apart from being visually like one's hazy, they're both in the kind of the same SRM. But I suspect this is a completely different beer.
Slightly different. Well, they are two different.
Both with the
ABVs.
delicious name. Yeah, and that could be a function of the yeast. So there could be, grain similarity grain bills, but two different yeasts with two different attenuations producing two different ABVs. That's highly likely.
Right.
I
The
don't
hazy
know if
is
like
the
the
lower. Okay, so if they use the same grain bill, and what they're doing is
all
they're going to
speculation, of course.
they're going to throw a lot more hops into the fermenter.
Right.
Now we have a lower ABV beer.
Actually, I think it's a little higher, isn't it? Or is it a little lower? 7.2
7.2.
and 7.
Yeah,
7,
the hazy's a little lower.
So that could be attenuation of yeast, or it could be, if they had to add, so popular in the style, they add high protein grains, wheat and oat, flake products.
Maybe, but
version
this
of
is
those,
gluten
which-
reduced.
They're both gluten reduced.
So now I'm wondering.
Yeah. Interesting. It's kind of got like an overripe fruit thing going on
Yeah.
for my mouth, and that in all honesty could be a function of the fact that we destroyed our palates with a bitter beer first,
Yeah.
and then that's kind of grenading the rest.
Right.
What can we perceive after drinking an IPA? Right. If you were judging a beer competition,
And I drink the highest IBU first, I can't taste any of
you're
the
not doing shit for
later.
the rest of the day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does it tell me an IBU?
I did not come across that information. Of course, that's a big fat lie. Anyways, we already know that.
All right. Is there a perceived IBU?
Definitely like a mandarin orange kind of thing going on,
Yeah, because
but it's a mandarin orange that's been hanging out a little bit,
a little long.
little long.
Like one
That's
on
what
my
kinda
ca-
that's
like-
kind of what I'm tasting.
Like one on my counter.
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I do with my fruit. I create art.
same with the rest of us. Just leave it there till it grows
So-
new colonies of something. No,
Mine usually dries out pretty well. It's pretty cool. I have a really cool tomato, like an heirloom tomato.
drying out.
Yeah, my neighbor gave it to me. She's like, "Here," and I didn't use it, and yeah, it's slowly like dried and shriveled up, and it's beautiful now. It's really cool.
Cool art. Definitely enjoying this the IPA a little bit more than the
hazy.
one. Yeah.
This is
a little
vegan beer
a
too.
little harder to drink.
This is vegan, gluten reduced, vegan. Man,
Does that say vegan
they've
beer?
got this beer. They got the clientele covered.
Right. Well, that's good because they don't classify yeast as a sentient organism, so we can eat that. No, but, plants could be sentient. We're working on
Well,
that. Too,
okay.
Yeah.
They don't classify yeast so
It's
right.
it's still a biologic.
It is. It's an animal.
Yeah. It's
a-
not
it's
an
a-
animal. It's fungus, but
Okay.
yeah, fungus. Okay.
Fungus. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not that they're polling a lot of fungus. Say, hey, Saxacervisiae, like, you mind if I destroy you in my stomach? Okay, yeah, that's great. No, they're not doing that. Yeah, it's kind of I'm a little disappointed and it's probably my fault. I'm gonna go on record. It's probably my fault drinking the IPA first. So if you're out there listening and you pick up these beers and want to do something silly like drink them at the same time, maybe drink the IPA first. Or
No,
the
drink the
hazy IPA.
Yeah,
You're right.
drink
Drink the
hazy
hazy IPA first. Drink the whole thing and then try the IPA. That might be a better set. And that kind of makes me nervous now. We have the Voodoo Ranger on deck later in the broadcast.
Now, is it the same?
I mean, I've drank both of these beers, but
Do they have IBUs on it? Because I don't see one on the on the regular IPA. A regular IPA.
well, maybe the rest of the world's figuring out that has figured out too that IBUs are a lot.
Right, but it should be. There should be like a scale. It should be like green light, yellow light, red light. Green light is all the lagers.
Yeah.
Yellow light's going to be your bitters, your ambers. And then the red light's going to be your higher IBU beers.
I do see in my notes that the hazy, the delicious IPA, Columbus, Calypso, Lemon Drop, and El Dorado listed on their website, whereas the hazy had a completely different hop bill: Sabro, El Dorado, and Azaka. So if we've got the same name, delicious IPA, but they didn't just add more Lemon Drop, El Dorado, and Columbus to make it a haze. They completely changed
the hop bill. Yeah.
Right. So we got differences in.
Yeah, you definitely need to do that.
We definitely, so we got differences in ABV that could be grain, bill related or yeast related. Now we have 2 different hops. Definitely, we're seeing kind of more of the branded effort. This is the Delicious brand of IPAs. They must sell a lot of that one. It is good.
It's delicious. I'm not gonna knock it. I mean, and I think they are 2 different beers.
Yeah. Voodoo Ranger coming up later in the show. Tropical aromas, juicy fruit flavors, and this is just a Voodoo Ranger. Mosaic and Amarillo hops listed in their marketing materials. A golden IPA, perfectly bitter with a refresh sublime finish. Well, that's cool. I know I've had the Voodoo Ranger. It's a double IPA, and then this is a hazy imperial IPA, which is not strictly a style, but we're gonna enjoy it anyways. That one doesn't list the hop bill in their marketing materials at all. For the
they don't
juice,
want to tell you.
The juice force. People are getting a little tight-lipped about some of that. It's interesting. It's interesting. We will save those for the later part of the show.
And I wonder why,
you'll
because
know when we do.
I mean, collaboration's a wonderful thing. Everybody collaborates,
Right?
And letting people know what hops you use, especially homebrewers, that's a good thing. It's good for the beer community.
And considering so much of the craft beer sector grew up out of homebrew. Ken Grossman, Vinny Caruso, the folks in New Belgium, Jesus, so many, the Widmer brothers, all of, who wasn't, in craft, in the early days of craft, and, we're going back, to the 80s, 80s and 90s into the 2000s, so many of those new brands all came out of homebrew.
Yep.
Period. And it's an unavoidable space. So there's, looking at some of the stuff like Cardinal Craft Brewing certificate program, how many of those students going to that program were homebrewers? It's not as many as you would think.
Really?
I was always kind of surprised by that one.
Yeah.
I've never met these. That's weird. I am the homebrew guy in the valley.
Right. And these students are there.
The students.
They've never been in.
But they've never homebrewed either.
So why are they there?
Because beer sounds cool. I mean, I get it. Beer is cool. It sounds cool, and I hope you think it sounds cool too. And that's what we're trying to do here. But
right,
it was always kind of a that's very interesting that so many weren't.
And I guess it's a tech school.
Right.
It's a tech school
Certificate program. Yeah.
I mean, when I went to tech school, and before I went to tech school, I was building houses, and I'm like, I don't want to build houses the rest of my life. What can I do? Okay.
Right.
Well, I never did CAD before. I never did drawing, and I had no idea really what it was, but it looked cool. And I did architecture classes in high school, and it was kind of the same line. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So yeah, I can understand that if you never homebrewed and thought it was cool. And that's the way to get into it.
I mean, I thought about I thought architect would be a cool job when I was in grade school kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think I pursued any of that. I mean, I remember getting to play with a CAD program in high school. They had a CAD lab, and I only got to play with it a few times because they only had the one. Everybody wanted to be on the darn thing for those who were in the class. So, but it was pretty cool. But I didn't get past that. I didn't get past that at all.
Yeah, probably just I don't know. I mean, I don't know how I got into it other than just picking that CAD school and going.
And so and that's kind of what we're seeing in the beer, a lot of the beerscape as far as trade schools.
Yeah,
certainly looks that way.
I mean, I was doing construction, so I was familiar with plans and 2D drawings and things like that and what it took. And heck, I didn't want to build houses. So.
but playing with the pieces was all right.
I want to design houses. I've designed a couple cool custom homes before.
That's great.
And that's amazing. Yeah. I did a super fun house up on a hill, and I designed the whole thing. And I've got it's like it was like a 2-story, and the whole inner part of the house was open to the second story up, and then all the rooms and stuff were on the second story on the outside of where the opening was. So you had like a walk around
Like a
banister, open
railing, kind of
railing,
like
yeah,
it's
that
a
you see
wraparound
down in.
deck.
And I had this one huge beam that went down through the center of the area above the stairwell, kind of connected the kitchen to the living room, and I went on and made my calculations. And then I have to, you have to pull your plans to a professional engineer.
Sure.
Since I wasn't an architect, I had to go get his signature on that. And he came back and he's like, man, good job. I have one change for you. You have to make that beam 1 inch less thick, 1 inch less high. So I overdid it just a slight bit.
That's not, of course, if that one thing was connected to all the other things, and then they all had to get fixed. But
Yeah.
like so many of my projects.
Yeah,
what got you
because-
into,
'cause-
so you're doing that. What got you into
Because I got
beer?
what?
What got you into beer though?
What got me into beer? My wife, not my ex-wife. I'm sorry, my baby mama. She bought me a beer kit.
Tag your
And-
head.
Yep.
Like beer.
Yep, I love beer, and so she's like, "Well, here's your birthday.
Now you can make it.
Boom, now you can make it.
You
Order
can
me
do
one.
that by yourself.
Yep, order me one right off the internet. No, it wasn't the internet. It was
They didn't call it that, man.
right. It was a catalog. It was a mail order.
Yeah. It was they shipped shit to your house.
That was pre-internet mail order.
Yeah, for sure. Print material.
Right. I mean, yeah, we got you could go. I think you could probably go on to the internet to the site, and I think you could request the catalog like that, and
Right.
then they'd send the catalog. You'd get on their list or whatever.
Sure.
And then you got the catalog, and now you call them and order.
Place your order.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good old the good old days. I don't know.
Those weren't that.
They were that
No,
great.
they weren't that great.
Hey, none of them were that great.
That's one
kid.
time I'm going to say the good old days wasn't that great.
I think nostalgia forgets all the shit bits.
Yeah, we were just talking about who were you talking? I was talking about somebody, I think at work, and they're like, "Yeah, I have all my 3.5 floppies still," and I have like 5.5 floppies. I mean the
floppy ones.
the floppy ones, not
Yeah.
the floppies in a hard plastic case. Not the real floppy
Now you're
ones.
dating yourself.
I've got DOS 3.1 on there.
Yeah. Let's try this. I gotta try this hazy one.
Try that hazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the second, okay, so then I brewed beer for a long time, and then I stopped. We moved from Arizona. I started brewing beer when I was when I lived in the Virgin Islands.
Right.
So she had to have that shipped over to the Virgin Islands, and I brewed my first beers there. Then we moved from there to Arizona, and that's when I was in Brewmeisters Anonymous homebrew club. And then we moved to Dallas from Arizona, and I stopped brewing beer. And then, because I don't know, no, I did brew beer in Dallas. I brewed beer in Dallas with my buddy Richard, and then didn't brew much after that, and then moved to Oklahoma
Oh wow.
and didn't brew any more beer after that because
Oklahoma sounds like a place that make me want to drink more.
Oklahoma's fun. I lived
Oklahoma.
I lived on a 1,000-acre ranch in Oklahoma.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
It's a big chunk of dirt.
It is. It had 28 ponds, all connected, and there's dirt roads everywhere. I used to have a 4x4 truck and a 4-wheeler.
We're
come right out of the
definitely
garage.
going to talk about that.
Boom, right out there.
But I think that's going to be a bit of a wrap on Beer 30, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We're kind of we got a whole another show, another rest of the show
We've got
to
to
do.
talk about this hazy.
Hazy IPAs. When we come back, we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to finish our first rounds of beer.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're going to come back and, we're going to take a look at the Hazy IPA, kind of the evolution, the history of the style, what it is, where it comes from. So stick around. We'll be right back.
We'll be there.
Somewhere in Skagit Valley, beer is vanishing. Asian Ham, it's true. Beers are disappearing from fridges and pints faster than we can track.
Local brewers are making beer so fresh and flavorful.
And Northwest Brewer Supply?
The source of the phenomenon, They supply the tools, ingredients, and knowledge to create brews that defy logic and gravity.
The truth is out there, and it's at Northwest Brewer Supply. Visit nwbrewers.com.
The Great IPA Migration. From clear and bitter to hazy and juicy. An evolutionary tale of two IPAs.
In the rugged landscapes of the American West, a creature evolved. Assertive, resinous, aromatic. The India Pale Ale, known affectionately as the IPA, was born. A dazzling display of hops and bravado. A beer of conquest, not of subtlety. This particular subspecies, West Coast IPA, thrives in coastal climates where clarity is king and bitterness reigns supreme. See how it displays its vibrant citrus oils and dank pine needle aromas, daring even the bravest drinkers to dive in. There's no haziness here, no ambiguity, only crystal clear conviction. But something curious is happening. Our subject is migrating east. On the other side of the continent, a transformation is underway. In the lush fermenters of Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, the IPA has adapted. It has become fluffier, hazier, softer. This is the New England IPA, a more approachable cousin, thick with haze and dripping with stone fruit. Where the West shouts, the East whispers sweet notes of mango and papaya. Bitterness gives way to juiciness like a pillow fight in a citrus grove. And yet, despite their differences, they share a common ancestor. Humulus lupulus, the hop, a flowering cone whose oils and acids have shaped entire ecosystems of taste. In the world of beer, few species have shown such diverse plumage. Whether clear and cutting or cloudy and cuddly, the IPA endures. It's not merely a beer, it's an evolutionary triumph in a glass.
Evolution of a beer style here. Like, we have just consumed two wildly different beers from the same manufacturer, same brewery, and complete departures from each other. I don't know. I mean, apart from the color,
different.
I don't think there was any two that really, they don't sync with each other on any other level other than a slight color similarity. The IPA alone, history-wise, we've got a beer that was, kind of born in the 80s and 90s in the early American craft beer movement. Yeah. I think the first recorded one was probably Anchor Brewing's Liberty Ale, and they didn't even call it an IPA, but they used these novel Oregon-grown Cascade hops. Yeah, and it was cool. It was bitter, and they were using English dry hopping techniques, which had not shown up across the pond yet. So that beer definitely kind of cements the starting drop in the bucket of the American IPA scene. Gosh, the IPA scene, that's 40. For a while there was 40% of the craft beer market. I think it's more
was
like
IPA.
20, I think it's fallen to maybe 20%.
Because there's a lot more style out there that
I
hazies.
think they're dividing the pack now into hazies, kind of thing.
That's a new beer style.
It's a new beer style. Well, not the first one we've done either. We've been muddling with IPAs since then.
Right. When was the NEPA introduced?
So NEPA, I think the first recorded one is credited for the Alchemist Brewery by John Kimmich in New England. It's the Heady Topper. Came out. I think he developed that in 2006 or something. 2004 or 2006 is when that beer came out, and it was they just call it an IPA. which is kind of interesting.
Right. Because it had to then be differentiated.
Well, it hadn't been differentiated
Right,
yet.
it
So
hadn't,
it was like
but
it was an IPA. It was
now
bitter. It
has
was like
to.
cool. Yeah, now they're drawing lines in the sand all the time. It's interesting. The John Kimmich in 2013, I saw a panel discussion he did on Chop and Brew, Chip Walton's Chop and Brew. If you remember Chip Walton from Brewing TV on YouTube in the earlier days of YouTube, recorded a panel discussion. I think it was a GABF or the Craft Brewers Conference or it was the American Home Brewers Conference, and John Kimmich was talking about the Heady Topper. And yeah, the AHA one possibly, yeah. But he's telling everybody to drink it from the can. Don't pour it in a glass.
Nobody liked the haze back then.
Well, that's what
everybody was trying to make beers that were clear.
Clear was an obsession.
It was.
Clear was an obsession for everybody, homebrewers and pros alike.
Well, that's where all of the pilsners were. The pilsners that we were drinking, they're clear. All the beer that we
Lager
knew was clear.
Beer, it goes clear. Sure,
every
sure.
beer, and you would hear about the occasional England, English beer. Oh, you get a cask English beer. You go over to England, you could drink the really super good beer over there. But none of it came over here like that, for
some
a
of
long
those,
time.
The hops alone, in the IPA category, that was a beer that was built to travel. Now, we have the India Pale Ale, and they're calling it like India Pale Ale because of this whole like trade route into India and how do you send a beer to India across a shitty voyage at sea.
And now it's not like this beer because it's like 8 months old. It's like just drinking an 8-month-old beer that has been sitting in the cellar.
It's not
or
like
in your garage.
And the English didn't invent the IPA just to send to India. They were using hops long before that. They had very bitter beers long before.
Long before they started sending beer to
before
India
they sent it to India
on the trade routes.
Yeah, so kind of that India Pale Ale, like I think John Hogston or something like that. He had a contract with the East India Trading Company, which. If you ever watch Pirates of the Caribbean, these are the these are the world dominant commercial conglomerate of the era, and he had a contract to ship beer with them, and it was a sizable one. It made him a lot of money to furnish to ship beer exclusive through the East India Trading Company.
Of course,
he got a little greedy though. And East India Trading Company, demanding more money from his distro line. And so said, fuck it. And they opened it up to other...
Somebody else came in and underbid him?
Yeah, and there's a little brewery in Burton-upon-Trent. Famously took over for them. And so Burton-upon-Trent, the water system in there is very, very high in calcium, which makes those beers... the bitterness better and the hop expression better. And those guys, and we know those beers, kind of the classic English IPA from the Burton-upon-Trent beers.
Okay.
Which is kind of cool. Cool history, nerd stuff, man.
Love it.
Back to America, we also get Sierra Nevada comes out with the Cascade, also using Cascade, and that was a very bitter forward beer for the marketplace, a pale ale. But a very bitter.
The OG pale ale.
Oh, yeah, Mother's Milk. And then Vinny Caruso, he brews the first double IPA when he was
He's at Blind Pig
Brewing Company with 92 IBUs.
92 perceived IBU.
It was calculated IBUs. Because what did we do? We just did that. We just did the math.
There you go. Calculated and perceived.
Yeah, and those are kind of like the three big moments in U.S. beer history that paved the way for this thing we love. I love the IPA. I think it's a fantastic beer. I enjoy drinking it. If I go to a bar and they got weird beers, I'll try the IPA first.
Yep.
It's kind of my go-to. So beer style alert. We got 21A. This is the BJCP style. We've got some stats. We've got 40 to 70 IBUs, an SRM in the 6 to 14. Original gravities 1056 to 1070.
This is the American IPA.
This is the American IPA. Final gravities, dry at 1.008 up to 1014. So 5.5% to 7.5% is the style of the IPA. What does the
style say about the clarity of the beer?
Often in IPA it says some haze okay.
Some haze okay.
Right, these are dry hopped by tradition, and there's always going to be some hop haze formation when we do that. We can't really escape it unless we do a whole mess of findings, which can also
then that does other things to your beer, takes other flavors out.
Yeah. So comparing that to the New England IPA, we've got IBU range. We went from 40 to 70 to 25 to 60, which this one kind of always got me. So many of the early examples of this style weren't even very bit, like 20, 25 IBUs.
Not bitter at all.
It's like that's not bitter. I think if it's gonna be an IPA, can we have
It's got to
it
be bitter.
Yeah,
Right. That's one of my complaints was like this hazy or the juicy.
Yeah.
It's not an IPA. It's a juicy.
they're good. I'm not knocking the beer. I think they're cool. But yeah,
But it's not an IPA.
I
It's
kind of
not
wondered,
that.
did IPA really need that much help in the marketing department? Had it gone stale, back in, back in the day?
I believe the opposite happened. It's like it blew up, and then we're just trying to figure out every way to make an IPA because it's so popular.
I think you're right about that. We started just branching out.
Yep.
We started playing with it. You also get the birth of the back in the 90s.
look
you
at
got
this IPA.
the black IPA,
I
the
made a
red
red
IPA,
IPA, yeah.
the white IPA with
what is a
Belgian
white
yeast.
IPA?
So that's what happens when a Belgian wit has a delicious baby with American hops.
Yeah.
So you get that kind of like they're kind of hazy too. Because they're 50-50 churro and wheat, so you get that murky, cloudy appearance. But they're West Coast West Coast IPA hops in a Belgian wit without the coriander.
A fruity, spicy, refreshing version of an IPA.
Pretty good.
Lighter color, less body, features either a distinctive yeast or a spice addition, typical to the Belgian wit beer.
Yeah, it's
So
wit.
it's
It's
baby.
basically it's
It's a wit beer, baby.
functionally they're wits, usually without the coriander,
There you go.
and like IPA hops.
Yeah.
And poof, it's an IPA. What can we do with hops? We bittered with them. We've had late additions. We've done English dry hopping. What do? We can add more hops.
Add more hops.
We definitely saw like a race to be the most bitter IPA on the planet. Like
Right.
100 plus IBUs.
We're throwing in as much
So
hops as we can get in our
So
kettle.
somebody threw in some hops. Somebody else threw in more hops.
Yep.
So and then somebody else put in more hops. You get the idea. I think new hopping strategies were also emerged. We'd see like first wort hopping come onto the scene where you add it to the mash
After the
tun.
mash tun.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or right after at the sparge. So it's kind of like a 90-minute addition, but not. You saw whirlpool hopping come
Yep.
out of here, like right after chilling, you'd
Right.
spin it up with a bunch of hops or hop stands.
Now
Sling it-
Whirlpool's
sling out-
gonna still be at high temperatures, right?
I've seen whirlpools at high temperatures and sub 170 temperatures.
Okay.
Whirlpooling being usually just pumping the wort around, spinning it around,
Right.
to collect kind of that stuff. You do see hop stands, but I've also seen hop stands at the hot side hop stands and cold side hop stands. So just letting the hops hang out in contact with the wort for a lot longer. I've seen both of those things. Double dry hopping, triple dry hopping.
dry
We'd
hop.
see 60-minute continuous hopping,
But-
followed quickly by 90-minute continuous hopping. Thanks, Dogfish Head. You
I've
guys
done
rock.
that. Yep.
Yep.
Every 5 minutes or
Like
something?
add a pellet.
No, I added more than that.
Yeah. Well, I remember seeing like a video
like
of
a
the
half
90.
ounce or something every 10
Oh,
minutes.
that's a shit pot.
Yeah, it was a lot. It
it's a
was
lot.
like 9 ounces by the time I was done or something like that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So I mean, if you could dream up a new way to use hops, somebody was probably definitely doing that.
It fits in category 21.
Right.
Maybe category 21 should just be called hop.
Yeah, it's a liquid hop. Okay. So yeah, if you were gonna find a new way to use hops, you were going places. As the IPA migrated eastward and encountered new conditions, softer water, fruity hop varieties, and brewers who embraced the chaos of fermentation, a metamorphosis began. So probably the big one in hop utilization, was dry hopping during active fermentation. Now, in isolation, that's not really groundbreaking, but what else was going on in these beers is some of the strains of yeast we could play with did different things.
Now I'm going to take my airlock off of my carboy fermenter, and I'm going to during fermentation, during like full high Kreuzen.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna start stuffing hops in there, like with a knife, like.
You take the lid off. You take
Well,
the lid
this
off.
is my carboy. My carboy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And you'd start shoving shit into.
Oh, now if I got a bucket
Yeah.
or my stainless
Sure.
steel fermenter, I'm taking my lid off. That's
And you
scary. That's scary.
It's not too scary. I mean, during high Krausen, you're creating copious amounts of CO2, so the likelihood of oxygen making its way in there
very
is
good. Very good.
yeah.
Okay. So we're semi-safe.
We're okay. I mean,
keep it clean, but we're semi-safe. All right.
So one of the things that's to get started, get the kind of the phrase that gets bandied about in New England IPAs is biotransformation. I mean, shit, isn't that a good marketing word? It's like buzzworthy. Biotransformation, which is just fancy fucking language for anytime one chemical compound is converted into another one.
Biotransformation
through a living cell. So all beer is biotransformation of sugars into ethanol by yeast. That is biotransformation. So biotransformation is nothing new, but it does sound kind of cool, and it enters the lexicon with this this New England IPA. There is something that happens. There's some new biotransformation things going on. Yeast do start reacting with bound thiols in yeast, and thiols are just sulfur compounds. They're aromatic sulfur compounds.
Tell me that again.
Thiols.
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 Okay.
So there's free thiols, and we've kind of known these are some sulfur backed aromatic compounds, and those have already been activated. Some of these yeast strains start taking bound thiols in hops and releasing them, and now they're aromatic. We have new aromatic potential.
So is it taking my aromas from my hop at that point and throwing them out of my beer?
No.
Okay.
They're changing them and making them. They're turning the volume up on them.
Oh, okay. Releasing them into my beer.
Yeah, releasing some of these bound ones into the beer.
Okay. So then when I pour my beer and I get my nice head on it, these guys escape.
You can smell it. Yeah,
my
there's
nose.
new aromatics.
Got it.
Basically new aromatics.
Okay.
So you get ester and phenol development from yeast. Some of those change because of this interaction with hops. The metabolizing of some of these hop compounds by yeast make new flavor and aroma compounds in the forms of phenols and esters. A lot of them have these tropical and fruity kind of flavors, which is kind of cool.
Which is very cool.
It's delicious. I think it's really, really tasty.
And this is where we get a lot of our hazy flavors from.
And you see some of those hop oil. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And some of these other hop oils like linalool, geranol, citronellol gets created from other, mercaptans in hops. These other flavor compounds and aroma compounds get converted and by yeast. That's all biotransformation is. Just means yeast did some stuff. Instead of just dealing with sugars and turning them into ethanol, now they're unlocking or creating new flavors.
It did
from
some
hops.
things.
It did some more things. It's your best friend in the book.
I like that.
Yeah. And this was popularized by Heady Topper, the Alchemist Brewing's Heady Topper, was kind of a cool thing. So the key takeaways for you and I in homebrew land, one of the big things we're going to do for the style of beer is we're going to start dry hopping early. Usually at high Krausen, day 2, 3, or 4.
When open that fermenter.
Yeah, open the fermenter. We're adding some hops. We also there are certain yeast strains that are going to be a little bit better suited for this. There's certain yeast strains that are better suited for this, and these are like your Vermont, New England strains, Hydra, Cerebus, Hornindal Kvike strains, S33, Yeast 1318. These guys are really good at
They're
doing this
suitable
conversion.
for your high,
yep.
your high hop additions.
This dry hopping early. Remember we talked about regular IPAs saying, hey, some haze is okay from dry hopping. Well, when you dry hop with the amount of hops we're using now in New England IPAs, like 6 to 8 ounces at a time, you're going to get really pronounced hop haze, like permanent hop haze. It's
perma-haze.
Yeah, that's kind of the haze function of a hazy or New England IPA is from the amount of hops we use during active fermentation. It's not yeast. Like, remember the early days? Everybody thought it was like a Hefeweizen strain where it had yeast in suspension still, and that's what's causing a hazy. Nope. They proved that. All the yeast drop out.
It was just the wheat, the proteins in the wheat?
That contributes some of the haze, like the body and mouthfeel stuff and some of the haze. just like your any wheat beer, from a Blue Moon to Hefeweizens to Belgian Wits, definitely some, but some of these hazies were even thicker than that. So combining with high proteins with with permanent hop haze, from throwing a half a pound per 5 gallons of hops into the dry hop in the fermenter, that'll do things. That'll definitely do things.
Dude, where's my haze?
The haze, it's not a flaw, it's camouflage. A suspension of oils and proteins designed not just to obscure, but to attract. In the East, clarity is a weakness.
So we want to let's build a beer. Let's talk about where the haze comes from, what's really making this thing tick, and it starts with the grain bill. We want 10 to 30%. This could be flaked oats, flaked wheat, malted. We can have malted oat. In fact, I actually kind of like to use malted oat over malted or flaked oats.
You like malted oats?
Malted oats is kind of cool, yeah.
And then are they still rolled?
No,
they're not.
It looks like a kernel. In fact, has a papery husk. It's a thick husk.
Yeah.
The husk is not the greatest flavor. Fortunately, the grassy kind of flavor of the oat husk doesn't translate into my beer, which is kind of cool.
Are they sent through the mill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're a little. Oat is a really narrow grain, so if you can adjust the settings on your mill easily, do that for oat malt. I don't typically change my mill settings.
Do you carry oat malt?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
I don't typically change the gap settings, so I mix that one really heavily into the rest of the barley, and then I mill it twice typically for that, because it's so narrow. It kind of it has a tendency to slide right through. But up to 30% of that's the higher proteins change that mouthfeel, and those New England IPAs have kind of this soft, pillowy feature from high protein malts. These contribute to haze. They're not the sole reason we have haze. But just like in your wheat beers and the like, you can have some of those beers are going to be hazy. Oh, it's time for beer number 2. Very good.
It's been a while, but since we had a beer, man.
Oh shit, we fixed that. Real quick. You're going to want to avoid crystal malts in these beers. I mean, the cloying sweetness of crystal malts is not going to work out.
We're going to avoid
great.
crystal malts
Generally.
Yeah.
Generally, it's base malts. A lot of base malt, high protein base malts. Let the hops are the star of the show, so we're going to do those. The reason I like oat malt over flaked oats. Flaked oats has quite a bit of magnesium in it that contributes to oxidation problems, and we're going to cover that in a minute, are the big issues in hazy IPAs.
The biggest.
Yeah, the biggest issue in IPA. So before we go into the rest of the list, talking about how to make the hazy work, we've poured this other beer we have to talk about.
Time
we got
for another Beer 30.
It's a mini Beer 30 right in the middle of the show because I'm thirsty.
We have the Voodoo Ranger
and the
Imperial IPA.
Yeah.
That means it's a strong one.
Huge.
Oh, 9%. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, so we've got the Voodoo Ranger and the Voodoo Ranger Juice Force IPA Hazy Imperial.
Yeah, that's very hazy, but that's 2 wildly different beers, isn't that?
It's definitely a different color.
We've got a blonde hazy and kind of that orange hued classic IPA.
Yeah, it's like a classic.
Clarity's good in it. I think Clarity's better in the Voodoo Ranger than it was in the Stone for the IPA.
Clarity is. Yeah. I can see you right through this beer.
I could read through that. Yep.
Yeah, I could.
So this time I drank the.
And actually,
Voodoo
the
Ranger
hazy isn't as hazy.
And that could be the glassware. Was the second pour through that glass. That could be it. Could be it. I have a mustache that destroys foam all the time. I did drink the Voodoo Ranger first.
Yeah.
Or the Voodoo Ranger Juice Force Hazy IPA first, and it's delicious. I've had this beer before. It's really freaking good.
Whoa, the aromas are completely different.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't done that.
Okay, so on the Voodoo Ranger, or on the regular Voodoo Ranger, we've got a little bit of the biscuit, a little bit of that roast, tiny bit of the roast, but
yeah, I see where you're going with that. Yeah.
Kind of that good maltiness. Kind of got It's a little farther cry than a straw color. So I'm gonna tend to say it's leaning East Coast on the color. West Coast likes their straw color IPAs.
I don't know. Well, back in the day, a lot of IPAs
Had the
were
crystal.
orange kind of. Yeah, we use a lot more crystal back
I think
in
we
the day.
got away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is kind of
I
along
kind
that
of
same.
I
line.
like my IPAs with the 20, little crystal 20 for color. I like to nudge it into those orange spectrums,
And then
especially if
the-
the beer tastes like orange. Come on.
And then the aroma of the hazies.
Shit, it's really good. It's kind of like
It's florally. It's florally
I
more
get,
than
like,
citrusy.
almost like passion fruit on the nose.
Yeah, fruity.
Like a pog. Like passion fruit,
Yeah.
orange and guava kind
Yeah,
of nose.
yeah.
Doesn't taste that way, but it fucking smells that way.
Would that be the stone fruit? Is that-
That's
are
like
there
it's a very Hawaiian thing.
tropical
Yeah,
fruits.
yeah.
Tropical fruits. Okay. It tastes like it smells.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got that
Weird.
floral. I just took a sip of the hazy one,
Yeah.
and it's got that floral flavors, pronounced, a little sweet. That floral sweetness.
I do like it. I do like it a lot. The Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA is no slouch either. It's bitter without being. It's not punching me in the face. It doesn't. It's not cleaning my teeth.
Right.
Remember in like the 2000s, some of the IPAs, you would drink those, and then it felt like you didn't need to brush your teeth for like a week.
Right.
Like they stripped the enamel off.
Like
your
I
fucking-
felt
yeah,
like
yeah.
I didn't have any teeth.
Yeah. I'm thankful some of those beers are gone. I'm glad they're not part of the style catalog these days. The Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA, bitter without being too aggressive. So it's assertively bitter, not aggressively bitter. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Voodoo
like
Ranger's less IBU than the
Clean.
Stone.
it. Very clean.
We
very
should have
crisp.
started with Voodoo.
Well, it was like this is the bigger beer. This one's like 9%.
Yeah, no, but that's not how you drink beer. You drink
wonder
beer by the
about-
hop content.
You wonder about the quality of the show when faced with drinking a 7% or 9% first. Like, do you
Right,
ease into
right. I know.
disaster? Do you ease into disaster, or do you friggin' drive off the cliff head first?
I think
You
we
know,
drove off the cliff head first on the first ones because it was like 40 minutes until the next one.
That's problematic. That's a completely different issue. I think.
What is wrong with us, Ben?
Oh man, very good beers. If you should go get them. Hagen has all 4 of these beers. I picked them up this afternoon. Should definitely pick up some and
Oh, they're
and
sold
shop.
in all your local grocery
Yeah,
stores.
these guys
everywhere,
have
usually.
huge distribution. Stone Brewing, New Belgian,
That's crazy how many beers they can sell in a year. And
big,
and I
big
mean,
ass tanks, man.
they got a huge operation just throwing beer out the door every day, every single day.
Well, we're gonna enjoy these beers. Let's continue on this topic. Let's do this. So, you want to make a hazy yourself? We talked about protein. We talked about higher protein malts. Next one is gonna be
Polyphenol sources. I mean,
so hop
Select
select.
hop,
So
yeah.
really, we're talking hop selected polyphenol sources. These are hops. We're talking about yeast reacting with these. The phenols from yeast reacting with hop compounds, these myrcene, xanthocumenols. There's a host of like mercaptans. Some of these thiols, these bound thiols. We want to. Gosh, here's the real rub. Pick hops, the really fancy ones these days. If it's the trendy hop, the Citra, the Galaxy, the Mosaic, Eldorado, those are going to be the hops. To pick. Your really heavily aromatic dual purpose hops. Some of those have huge oil payloads as well. Start there. That's a fantastic way to do it. Citra, Mosaic, Simcoe, Eldorado, Amarillo. Those guys are gonna make.
Now
Why
my
do they
combi-
show up in every friggin'
now my
hazy-
combination is what makes my flavor profiles.
Well, that's a whole different animal.
I know.
Hops are never in isolation. We're always reacting with each other. One of my favorite combinations, Citra, Amarillo, and Simcoe, is delicious. I think that
And they're slightly
nugget
different year to
gives
year.
us that combination gives us Deschutes fresh squeezed. That was a fantastic beer.
Which one is that?
Fresh squeezed.
Yeah. No. Which hops?
Citra, Amarillo, and Simcoe. They bitter with nugget. Yeah, great combination. You mentioned like year over year changes.
Yep.
I was just listening to another podcast on the topic this afternoon, and yeah, that was a big deal. When you take a hop delivery for your beer for your year at the brewery, you're going to
better know what you're using.
You've got to figure it out quick
Yep.
because you're going to have to deal with it for a year. So you're going to make appropriate changes to your beers to get them back on track. Because 1 year over the next, the hops are grown differently.
Slightly different. You have to put a little more in, a little less in.
You may be buying from brand X, but brand X sourced from field Y instead of field Z.
Yep.
And that's two different. One's on the other side of the state or something.
Home brewer, you're going to be a little bit less.
I know home brewers are going to have these same problems too.
But
I'm
on
often,
a lesser scale.
I don't know. I'm often, in distribution landscapes, I am at the mercy of what they have in inventory. If I order Citra, it is not always, if I'm ordering from Yakima Chief always has they're grown in several different fields under contract to produce for Yakima Chief. So I get a very different expression from one crop and one grower to the next. Sometimes my distributors, package their own hops. So who did they buy from? I'm at that mercy. I don't get to make those.
Right.
I'm not on hop contract.
You don't know where they came from.
I can't afford to have a growing contract with, directly with the grower and take delivery of,
Even if you have that
pounds.
though, your batches, your field is going to be different year to year.
Even at breweries who do have hop contracts, year over year, they have to make adjustments to their beers to get them back online based on the current year's hops.
So it's going to change your hazy profile a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's the fun of brewing beer.
I think so.
You get to experiment, you get this or that, and you get to use your brain to make it the same. You know, I've got to adjust this. I've got to adjust that. That's the science.
Next up is going to be yeast. You're going to want to pick. There's certain strains we mentioned earlier.
You were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, there's certain strains you're going to want to go for.
Yeah, you listed them in the last segment, I believe.
And so you can rewind to that. It's in my notes. I could go do those again. Water chemistry. This one's kind of a cool. This was my first foray into water chemistry when I started brewing hazy IPAs. This was the reason. Certain beers, a 2-to-1 or 100-to-200 ratio. Depending on the beer, the first one I ever brewed was the Julius Treehouse Brewing Julius clone, and it had a huge sulfide payload. And usually I'm working with chlorides and calcium kind of derivatives for IPAs, right? Calcium turns the volume up on the bitterness the expression of bitterness for IPAs. Well, fetzing around with the sulfide really changed the mouthfeel. Soften the whole show. They call it pillowy. So really playing with those things.
Right.
So you can get a little nerdy with water chemistry and play with your chloride to sulfate ratio. High chloride, 150 to 200 parts per million, or moderate sulfates, 75 to 100, will give you kind of a round mouthfeel. I know in my brewing, I did the math. We got a water report. We did the math, and it boiled down to about a teaspoon of each of calcium sulfate and
per
gypsum,
5 gallons,
or calcium chloride and calcium sulfate
per
5 gallons.
Per 5 gallons,
about a teaspoon each when we did the math. Now your water report, you're my neighbor here at the house, at the studio versus the office. There's going to be subtle differences, but
subtle.
Probably
we're using the same water.
We're saying the same water system. Yeah. Next one, packaging considerations for hazy IPA. Oxygen is the enemy in all beers, doubly so in hazy IPAs.
Because of the hop content.
Hop content, right? You ever brew an IPA and 2 weeks later there's
nothing?
The hops aren't there anymore. They fucking hitched a ride.
What happened?
Oxidation.
Oh.
It destroys it. So now we have more hops.
When
We're
I
more
kegged
sensitive to those
when
things.
I kegged it, I got O2 in there, or when I bottled it.
Yeah. So packaging considerations. Definitely, this is a beer that's way better kegged than bottled because it's easier to control for oxygen. We can transfer into a purged keg, eliminate oxygen exposure. We can also we have the opportunity, because carbonation is not a function of yeast metabolism, we can actually treat the water with a Camden tablet, 1 per 5 gallons, as an antioxidant to scrub away oxygen going into the package.
You add that to your boil.
I can add that into. I can crush one up in the late stage of fermentation or secondary.
Okay.
Late stage. I can crush one up. My yeast have done their job. I can add that in there. It's an antioxidant. It's a natural antioxidant that we've been using in beer and brewing and wine forever. Cabinet tablet, either sodium metabisulfite or potassium metabisulfite, as an antioxidant is really good at scavenging or driving off oxygen for when we package this beer. So oxygen, not only will it rob you of hop aromatics and flavors in your beer if it oxidizes. Oxygen also makes your beer taste like cardboard if you let it. If you have too much of it. Not a great feeling.
Nobody wants that.
Not so great. The other thing it has a tendency to do, especially in hazy IPAs, is turn them kind of purpley gray. You ever see these beers? Like, it's almost like puce colored. Puce is not a fantastic
No
color for beer.
puce.
No
brew
puce.
house.
So, new beer law, no puce in beer. Okay? So, oxygen can react badly with these proteins and
Right.
polyphenols and cause this like
It's kinda-
graying, pucey kind of fucking color to it.
Is this a new beer style? We got a gray IPA.
I gotta the purple
Puce
purple gray
IPA.
puce IPA is never gonna be a thing.
21D.
Yeah, 21P pukey. Yeah, no.
21P for puce.
So another thing you do: skip like the cold crash. Don't use your kettle findings. Don't try to all those processes.
I'm gonna clear this. I'm gonna use my kettle findings to clear this
hazy
beer.
IPA. It's a little counterproductive there.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about grain bill, picking the right yeast, go for some cool hops, keep the oxygen out of it.
Yep.
Do that.
Keep the oxygen
and you can make a hazy beer.
away. That could be hard sometimes. You just have to be diligent.
Yeah, you got to
Do
think
things
about
right.
think about your process, limit the number of times you open it, all of these things.
You know what gets me?
What's that?
When I'm bottling some beers and I'm using the bottling wand, and okay, so I've got it all ready. It's right. I've got the wand in the bottle, and you fill the bottle up to the top. Right, and then once you take the wand out, it's like it's really at the perfect size or at the perfect height, but it's sucking ambient air into that space.
Right, but you also have oxygen absorbing caps to go on that.
Yeah.
So they're going to scrub that out.
They can.
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah. Yep. That's
their job.
Mm-hmm.
It'll scrub that oxygen out of there.
It'll bind it because it's going to stratify. The oxygen's going to go to the top,
Right.
Because it's heavier or it's lighter than CO2. The slight agitation of bottling a beer causes some of the CO2 to go from stable in a liquid form to unstable gas.
Yep.
And that's going to pack up into that headspace. The yeast are also going to produce carbon dioxide.
Yep. And the
'cause they're eating
CO2
sugar.
is heavier than the O2.
Yeah.
So the O2 is going to go push right up to the cap, and the cap is going to take care of that.
It's going to take care of it for you.
Perfect.
Yeah. This is the way.
And talking about a closed kegging system, that's
That is
different.
cool.
That's very cool.
It's interesting though. I did a side-by-side experiment with a hazy IPA, kind of standard homebrew, classic protocol, secondary, primary, secondary transfer into packaging, and I closed loop. I had a closed fermenter, like a pressurized fermenter, and I was able to pressure transfer into a purged keg, and I wanted to taste the difference. The initial taste test, the OG like homebrew protocol, that beer tasted better. I don't know what happened. 2 weeks later, I was so disappointed with the experiment, I forgot to record the results. So I don't know if I did not record the results to see if the hop flavors and aromas went away
Stuck
in
around.
comparison to the O2 free one.
right.
But I was so disappointed with the experiment at that point. Like, the O2 free one was good, but side by side with
The other one was better.
the regular one's so much better. It pissed me off. It
wonder
was
what
so much
happened.
better that I was mad.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear that.
I know.
I understand that.
Damn. See, here I'm trying to make a freaking point about O2 effects of O2
And
in
how
beer.
did I mess this experiment up?
And it's fucking, the results are fucking my beer up. So I got to do that one again, see if I fuck up the same way twice. Because then you get to call it a trend.
There you go. No, yeah, that's science.
Yeah, it's science. Let's see. So questions I get about hazy IPAs from the good folks coming to the brew shop. My New England IPA came out clear. What happened? All right. So the likely culprits of hazy IPA going clear, not enough proteins in your grain bill. So take a look.
Not enough proteins in your grain bill?
Like, so you didn't.
But I
use
thought it was the hops that really made some haze.
So these are the proteins are contributing factors.
Oh.
These contributing factors are less about the amount of haze and the stability
So
of the haze.
we need those proteins to
So we need
bind
some.
to the hop molecules.
I had a couple people like cold crash their beer, like they were trying to make a hazy and they cold crashed because that was their protocol. So
Right.
don't do that. They didn't dry hop during active fermentation.
Right.
And the last one, and this one I've done myself. I wanted to see like, well, if 1318's, why yeast 1318 is kind of a classic yeast for this. What about a 1272? Can I fuzz 1272? And the answer was yes. I was able to fuzz a 1272. I did a split batch, 10 gallons, and I split it into 2 fermenters. 1318 stayed hazy. 1272, after about 4 weeks in the keg, dropped clear. So there wasn't as much stability. Some of the yeast activity also contributes to these haze forming protocols. So some of and I suspect it was some of like the new files or new flavors that 1272 could not produce, added to the stability of the haze.
No,
So
okay.
they dropped. What's the best yeast for hazy IPAs? Another question I get. Best is subjective as hell. Like there's no one right answer to these questions, but there are excellent options.
Vermont Ale.
Good one.
Cerberus. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, Cerberus or Hydra,
Cerberus,
and I think
yeah.
These are East Coast, and some of those are East Coast labs.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from, right?
Right?
Obviously,
Makes sense.
it's
Makes
gonna-
sense, yeah. 1318 is fantastic. Why is 1318? I've used a ton. That's London Ale 3. The juice strain from Imperial Organics.
Yeah. That's going to help with our haze.
Yep. Lellemand S33, or excuse me, Fermentus S33. It's a Belgian strain, but it's a thiolizing Belgian strain, so it's been pretty good. Lellemand's got a dry New England that just came out a year or two ago. Playing with that one, it's been pretty cool. Hornadal Kvike's another one. It can do these excellent choices. They're gonna, that biotransformation of hop compounds. These strains will do that. They support haze. They generate those juicy, flavorful esters.
Now, I remember that Kvike could be fermented at multiple different temperatures.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, is there a certain temperature that I need to ferment this Kvike to get my hazy?
I have not experimented with that yet, and that is on my list. We just got those Kvike yeastery lineup in, and I've already started playing with the Stalin
Right.
strain, and the next one's going to be the Hornadal strain, because I want to know kind of those questions too. What's the next question on the list there?
Can I still get good biotransformation if I only use dry hop post fermentation?
All right, short answer. The short answer is no. For the biotransformation we're talking about with
We need
hop
the
reaction, we need active yeast cells.
yeast.
And if they've gone dormant,
There's
well,
no
they're not
active
very
yeast.
active, are they? I mean,
Nope.
how active are you when you sleep? Kind of question. So that's not really working. So dry hopping during active fermentation.
During active fermentation is the way
will
to
do
boost
that.
Yeah.
How important? I get a question about water chemistry in NEPAs.
Right. The difference of water from the West Coast to the East Coast, do you think that's a thing?
Well,
I
you
mean,
think about some of the
different
sources.
regions- different regions are.
Yeah, aquifers versus rainwater, rain runoff or snow runoff
Yep,
systems like we have here on the West. That's a very different water profile. I do see harder water systems, as in more calcium, magnesium, and the like on the East Coast. Just the way the water table
Where the water
operates down
table
there.
is and all that's them damn Great Lakes out there.
Yeah, so balancing the chloride to sulfate ratio, a 2-to-1, that does a lot of cool things for this particular.
I used to
style.
brew using the water from the aquifer from Linwood.
Oh, that's a that's a great aquifer. Really tasty water.
People used to be so mad at me because I pull up with my pickup. I'd have 15 carboys, 5-gallon carboys.
You're gonna be there for a minute. Yeah.
I keep bringing 4 back, and they're like, God dang! But that made great beer.
So I've got some like key takeaways. So I've got a summary of actionable steps for you guys to brew, sort of a what to do, when to do, and why it matters. So first off, in the what to do column, we've got use flaked oats, flaked wheat in the grist, or oat malt. Because it is going to boost your protein content for haze stability. This is cool. When you're going to do that, you're going to make sure it's in your, when you're writing your recipe, make sure you've done that. What's the second one there, Andrew?
Well, that biotransformative yeast, of course. The pitching stage is where you use this.
Sure.
You can't get that biotransformation if you're not throwing hops in when the yeast is active.
Right.
It enhances the fruity hoppy expression via the enzymatic activity.
Sure.
That's the scientific.
Yeah, getting technical over here for you beer nerds out there. Next up, dry hopping during active fermentation. That's about 2 to 3 days
after it starts.
Yeah, after yeast pinch. You want to see a nice, healthy, fat foam cap on your fermenter. Yep. It's a great time to just throw a butt ton of yeast at it. I think
butt ton of hops.
A butt ton of hops at it. Yeah.
Yeast are already there going.
They are
having a party.
That's right. Throw a butt ton of hops in there. I use my Hazy IPA kit at the shop has 6 ounces in split between 2 dry hop additions.
Yeah, and we want to use these aromatic hops. I mean, we want to use use
your Citra,
your designer brand.
Yeah, use all those cool trademark ones. Citra Mosaic, Eldorado.
You're not going to get much out of a hop.
Superdelic. A Nectaron's a cool one. It's got a very tropical flavor. Nectaron, it's
Is
fantastic.
that a New Zealand?
It's one of my new favorite
Is that a New Zealand one?
It is. I can't remember, but it's the descriptor is intensely tropical, and they're not even lying. That's exactly what else would you fucking call this? Nectaron. Get it.
Wow.
Put it in your next hazy. You will thank me. It's okay. So these high oil compound hops, they are going to what it's going to give you all of the juicy kind of cool flavors that you want in that from that biotransformation thing. Yep. So use the cool stuff. This is not a time to go cheap on the bog standard. I'm gonna get some crystal because it's on sale. Not for this beer.
Right.
Not for this beer.
And you're gonna put your additions at the whirlpool too.
Yeah.
During whirlpool, your hop addition after flame out down to 170. If you get below the 170 level, I don't think you're going to be extracting the hop aromas out of there.
You can extract hop aromas. You're not going to get bitterness. So kind of your whirlpool additions I see in 2 different flavors.
How
versus.
Low do we go?
Well, you can isomerize alpha acids down to 170 degrees.
Okay.
South of 170, we no longer isomerize, so we don't get any more bitterness. However, all of the oils and the cool thing about whirlpool additions is because we're not boiling anymore.
The oils don't volatilize.
They don't hitch a ride on
away.
Bubbles and gas, leaving the system. We're not losing water. We're not losing. Yeah, we're not losing it to steam.
Right.
So we're still isomerizing till down to 170. So it kind of is do you want just aromas? Chill your whirlpool addition down to 170 and then add the hops.
Yep.
Do you want a little more bitterness? Is the next question. And if so, you can get it down to you can leave it in hot side.
But you need bitterness for a while. You need the hops to boil for a certain amount of time.
There's modern IPAs out there that have 0 boil additions. They're all whirlpool.
Right. And they're not that bitter at all.
You can make them bitter. You just have to use a butt ton of them. I did an experiment once. I wanted to see how do we get to 100 IBUs in just a whirlpool edition. And I did the math, and the math was obscene. So I actually did a first wort hopping. I did a 3/4 per 5 gallons. I did 3/4 ounce of Warrior at first wort hopping. And now I know Warrior's a high alpha acid hop, but we used a whole pound of hops in the whirlpool edition to get to 100 IBUs.
So a 10-gallon batch.
And it. Yeah. Yeah, so per 5 gallons, it was God damn, it was a humongous beer.
That's
so
a pound
10
per gallon?
It was a huge amount. So you can do it.
Whirlpool only.
You can do it. You just have to use a butt ton.
Right. How is that? How is that bitterness perceived?
That beer was really good.
Was the bitterness perceived the same way?
It tasted very bitter, but it was also like, and this was a mix of like Citra, Amarillo, Eldorado, like all of the heavy hitting ones. Basically when
but we're just throwing a god awful ton of hops.
Oh, a pound of them in the whirlpool.
I mean, my beer just cost me $800.
It clogged up the hops bag that we had suspended it in. Like we started draining the kettle, and the sumbitch like held 5 gallons of beer in the bag with the hops, not even draining.
Sounds like a fresh hop brew, when
you're
throwing all the fresh hops in there. Your kettle's as full as it can get.
Yeah. So next one on the what to do, when, and how, water prep stage. Adjust your water for high chloride. That's going to enhance your softness, your juiciness, those kind of flavors.
It brings out the hops.
Yeah, turn the volume up. It's a little bit different than your bog standard beers.
And then you need to minimize that oxygen.
Whew.
We're talking about that oxygen.
God, that O2.
All comes back to the thing we breathe every day.
It's like beer 101 is like oxygen is the enemy of beer.
How does oxygen kill you, and how does oxygen keep you alive?
I think oxygen overdose or oxygen exposure problems are like the leading cause of death. I think it is the denominator.
Everything.
In all cases.
Yeah, everything.
Everybody had too much oxygen.
Everything goes crazy.
It took 80 years,
O2.
on average 72 to 80 years to do the job, but I think that it really is just oxygen. No, I'm just kidding. Oxygen is bad for your beer. It's good for everything else.
Everybody out there, stop breathing right now.
Yeah, it'll kill you.
You will not die.
But oxygen for your beer, cardboard flavored beer is not great.
Not.
Oxidized hops disappear after 2 weeks. We don't want gray. No puce beer. I'm gonna say it again. No puce beer. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Sin puce. As we've learned about IPAs today, we will have our final dissertation.
And thus the IPA, ever adaptable, ever evolving, finds new life in hazy forests and juicy plains, whether snarling on the west coast or purring in the east. Its legacy endures. It is not just a beer. It is an organism shaped by yeast, hops, and the bold heart of brewers.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Next up on the beer craft.
Oh man, we got a special guest.
We have a special guest.
Yeah.
Who are we bringing in?
We're bringing in Alex Neff from Farmstar Brewing. We're gonna talk about brewing for flavor and not for style.
Not for style. Wait a minute. Hold on. We're gonna talk about
breaking rules and fucking
Yeah, everything we've talked about so far, we're gonna break all those rules.
Yeah, pretty much.
And make a beer that you like.
So stick around. Come on back next week. I don't want to spoil it. It's gonna be great though. Come on back.
It'll be perfect.
Thanks guys for listening. Love you
on
so much.
Beer craft.
Cheers.